Well, hello everyone, good evening and welcome to One Hubs Racing's Prestige Tier. And the first thing you can probably notice on the left hand side is the really high turnout that we've received from the top 20 drivers connected to One Hub Racing. 8 drivers have decided to show up tonight, which, well, disappointing is one way to put it. I could put it another way, but I don't really want to swear on stream. But nevertheless, we still have a championship battle to sort out in both the drivers and the constructors championship. We also have a nice little battle possibly on track. Both the McLarens and both the Red Bulls are here, and the McLaren Red Bull guys are the only two teams really fighting out in the constructors championship. And 4 other drivers have bothered to turn up tonight. Lewis in the Toro Rosso, Black Phoenix in the Racing Point, Samster in the Renault, and Glock in the Ferrari. So there is still things to talk about, although not much compared to usual with only 8 drivers here. Ryan comes on stream as well just to politely tell me dry qualifying race is going to be dry to wet, so if these 8 drivers do survive at some point in this race, then they may have to transition onto either the intermediate or full wet tyres. We have 4 of the 8 drivers out on laps at the moment, in fact make that now 6, both Lewis and Glock still in the pits. 15.5 minutes left of this qualifying session. Encountering traffic in the qualifying session isn't going to be too much of a problem. There's certainly plenty of track space out there for these 8 drivers to successfully navigate themselves around. So then we'll move away from the first laps that are going to be put on and talk about both the drivers and the constructors championships. Now, last week was the first time that Louis in the McLaren could mathematically win the championship, and he got oh so close. I think he even needs 1 or 2 points. As it stands anyway, he is currently 128 points ahead of Blizzard, with theoretically 130 points left to play for. 5 races, including the one tonight, and of course the extra point for the fastest lap. So 125 for the 5 race wins, 5 fastest laps, 130. So he's 128 ahead. In theory, if Louis finishes this race, because we have less than 10 drivers, all Louis has to do is finish this race, and no matter what Blizzard does, even if he wins and picks up the fastest lap, Louis will be crowned the Drivers' Championship. If we had more drivers, in theory, Louis would definitely need at least a 9th and could maybe do it with just a P10 as well, depending on how good or bad Blizzard did. But with not even 9 drivers here tonight, Louis just has to finish the race and he is crowned as the Drivers' Championship. In the Constructors, though, it's still all to play for before the end of the season. 48 points between McLaren and Aston Martin Red Bull. McLaren sitting on 361, Red Bull on 313. Behind them, we've got the Williams team, neither drivers here tonight, on 261. Mercedes in 4th place on 164. And the Sport Pisa Racing Point F1 team in 5th place on 159. So Vastaracer, I believe, has invalidated going around the Degner curves on his first lap. I think he's going to go again, so we'll move away. We'll try and find someone else who is currently on a fast lap, or a hot one. I think Black Phoenix is. He is indeed in the number 14 Racing Point. That pink, blue and white beautiful livery is on that car as well. It's been pretty much a prominent feature on that car for the last couple of years. So he's coming up now to the final chicane. In and out very nicely indeed. Through the final corner as well, up to the line with the DRS, and Black Phoenix does set the first representable lap time in this session on the soft tyres as well, a 1:33.069. So Louis is halfway around sector 2 at the moment. Lewis, Midnight both in the pits, whereas Blizzard and all of this, he's coming up towards the famous 130R, which is an easy flat left in both qualifying and the race. In dry conditions at least anyway. Over to the left hand side, past the brake markers as well. The white line you can just see there is for the DRS detection point. We have one DRS zone here tonight, which of course is along the main straight. You can see on the right hand side, there it is, green line. Over the line he comes, and it's an invalidation, a 127, clear invalidation that is. So Samster as well, he's just starting his lap. Vastaracer is going for his second run. Glock as well, he's just coming through the Degner curves. Louis Vent, he now goes up into a provisional pole with a 28.463. So Louis Vent immediately onto the front row of the grid, which is all too common from the McLaren driver this season. So we'll try and find Blizzard. Well, he's just finished his lap, hasn't he? Samster is negotiating the Degner curves. Vastaracer as well is coming through the final corner. Over to the right hand side for the shortest run to the line, and he now takes provisional pole for 27.587, almost a full second ahead of Louis. So I can only assume that Louis made a little mistake somewhere on his first lap, or indeed Vastaracer is a full second clear. So Black Phoenix then, he's coming round. He's nearly 5 seconds up on his previous best, which is to be expected considering he did a 1:33 previously. Over to the right hand side as well on the run to the line is slightly shorter. He can claim a couple of extra hundredths, and Black Phoenix does split the McLarens, puts himself on the front row of the grid, a 1:27.933. So good evening to everyone that's coming into the stream. A few people are just turning around and saying it's a bit of a joke if it's just 8 drivers. Yeah, I echo those sentiments. 8 drivers in the top tier for One Hub Racing is pretty much a bit of an embarrassment. But we'll go anyway with the 8. Thank you to the 8 that have turned up, and thank you to all of you that have decided to come into the stream. I will try my very best to try and keep it as light-hearted and entertaining as possible, but don't be surprised if there's a few silent moments in both qualifying and a race if there's literally nothing to talk about. So Blizzard is still poodling around, but coming back into the pit. So most of the drivers are back in now. Just 11 minutes left of the session. For anyone that hasn't read the top comment on the stream, it's dry in qualifying. The start of the race is also dry, but we are expecting a weather change at some point. Whether it's going to be mid-race or towards the end of the race, we don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. So Midnight back out on circuit. A driver that I've been thoroughly impressed with this season in the Prestige tier, and being my first season with One Hub Racing, I didn't realise that a couple of seasons ago Midnight was in the bottom tier, I believe it was, and has steadily made his way up to the top tier, and he's steadily improved this season as well, and he's got a call up to the Red Bull team coming away from Racing Point. So clearly the Red Bull team have seen something in Midnight for now and possibly the future as well, and Midnight is revelling in the new challenge and taking the fight to his teammate and everyone else around him, and he's always an outside bet for a podium position, and he's picked up quite a few already this season. So Glockren is out on circuit as well, but he's coming back into the pits, which leaves just Midnight as the only driver of the 8 out there at the moment, circulating around Spoon Curve on his outlap, ready to go for his first timed run. So just over 8 minutes left of the session. We've got 15 people watching now. Maybe word's going round that we've only got the 8 drivers out there. I have put it up in the comment as well, and it's not like I'm not being spiteful of anything, but please do leave the negative comments out. It's not One Hub's fault. It's not the drivers that have turned up fault. It's out of our control. We don't know why the turnout is so low. There were a few people that did get in touch and say they were not racing tonight, but in theory we should have really had 15 or 16. I'm not too sure what's going on, but I'll try my very best to give you some sort of an entertaining stream. We do have more drivers out on circuit. In fact, the only one that's not out on circuit is Midnight, so he was obviously unhappy and he's come back into the pits as well, but there's plenty of time for all of these 8 drivers to get out there and do a couple of more laps at least. That's the race event, still on provisional pole with 27.587. Black Phoenix, Louis and Glock in 4th place. So the only ones that have set lap times: Lewis, Blizzard, both out on circuits, and Samster is now on a hot one as well, just coming round the Dunlop curve. turn 7 and turn 8 down now to Degner 1 and Degner 2. Degner 1 you can take pretty fast, just knock down the gear off the foot a little bit, but then it's heavy braking there, as you can see, for Degner 2. Run the car a little wide if you can, underneath the bridge, the only figure of 8 circuit on this calendar, and now up to the hairpin as well. Slightly off camber is the hairpin, so you want to be clipping that apex sort of on the exit rather than on the entrance to it as well, so you don't spin up the inside rear wheel. And now have a long right hander through turn 12 up to spoon curve 13 and 14. Again, very similar to Degner, where it's quicker on the entrance, and then you slam on the brake to move down the gear if you need to on the exit as well. And then a long straight as well, past the pit complex on the right hand side for some of the lower tier support races. And up to 130R. There is a car ahead, believe it or not. There's another car in front of Sam. And in fact, it's a few cars. Look at this. We've got 8 drivers in the qualifying session, and yet Sam has been blocked by 2 of them coming into the final chicane, which is just rotten luck for the Renault driver, but they have managed to get out of the way. Sam comes up to the line, and it's a lap time that's good enough for P3, a 1:28.096. So we'll jump on board with Glock, who's now going to take us for another hot lap around Suzuka. So down the long straight then with the DRS, stay over to the left-hand side, 150, throw the car in for its trust and might into turn 1 and turn 2 as well. Down a few gears, run the car a little wide, over to the right hand side then for the S-curve section. Turn 3, turn 4, turn 5, and then the long turn 6 as well. It feels like an age and an eternity before you can get back on full power. Flick it over to the right hand side, and then through turn 7, Dunlop curve, a long left-hander. Be sure to make sure you don't put a wheel on the grass. Straighten up the car nicely into the double Degner curves 8 and 9. We've got yellow flags somewhere either ahead or behind us of a slow car, but it doesn't matter. Underneath the bridge, flick right over to the right-hand side. Heavy braking for the chicane. Absolutely jam down the gearbox as well, all the way to 1st and 2nd. Short shift up to kill the rear wheel spin. 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th through turn 12. A long right-hander here, positioning the car all the time, thinking about braking and turning in for turn 13 here at spoon curve. Drag the car a little wide, but not too much, and then immediately flick it back in for turn 14. Straighten up the car on the exit, and now again the long run up to 130R. Sam politely gets out of the way on the left hand side, and all the driver can do now is just keep pedal to the metal. 130R is easy flat in the drive. You want to take a nice shallow line through there to not scrub off any speed. Over to the left, heavy on the brakes again for the final chicane. You needed 2 bites of the cherry on turning then, but a good exit, and as well we're hammering up the gears yet again. And he's run out of ERS as well, which should have been disappointing for Glock. He crosses the line. It's a 28.949. He didn't even find a 1/10 of a second on that flying run, and he remains in 5th place. Louis in 6th. Both the Red Bulls of Midnight and Blizzard yet to set their first lap times. Blizzard is coming up to 130R at the moment. Is it a fast one? It's not, so we'll move away. Where's Midnight in all of this? He's negotiating Degner 2 underneath the bridge up to the hairpin as well. So then Vasta Racer still on provisional pole. Black Phoenix in 2nd. Sam actually has popped up into P3. Lewis has retired from the session. He feels he can either not improve or doesn't feel the need to go out again. Maybe he's burnt through all of his soft tyres. We'll have a look at the details anyway. Best as you can see, Lewis actually has set his best lap time on the medium tyres. So yeah, with less than 10 drivers here, it doesn't really matter where you end up in qualifying. Your best lap time will mean that you start on whatever tyres you use to put that lap time in. So Lewis then is going to be starting probably in 8th place once both the Red Bull drivers put in their hot laps, but he'll be starting on the medium tyre. So Lewis is going to try something different to everyone else. Midnight then not happy with his lap. He's back in the pits. Same for Blizzard as well. So Vasta Racer back out then. 3.5 odd minutes left of the session. And now Louis has also popped up into P2 on the medium tyres as well, I believe. He has, yes. So he's 6/10 off of his teammate, but he's gone on to the medium tyres. So what tyres are Vasta Racer? Vasta Racer's back in the pits. Is he feeling maybe going on to the medium tyres? Black Phoenix is coming out. I believe he is on the softs still. He is indeed. Louis then retires from the session as well. He's done his hot lap. He's locked in to starting wherever it is inside the top 8 on those medium tyres. Sam coming back out the pits. He's elected to stay on the soft tyres. Glock remains in the garage for now, and I'm expecting probably maybe one of the Red Bulls, probably not both, but maybe one of them might decide to go onto the medium tyres as well, and spice things up a little bit, and maybe we'll sort of have 2 races going on really, softs onto mediums, mediums onto softs. Of course, Some of these drivers that are now on the mediums, Lewis and Louis, might have pulled a bit of a masterstroke here. We do have rain towards the end of this race at some point, as Vasta Racer has gone off the circuit and back into the pits. So we've got rain towards the end of the race. Maybe Louis and Lewis have looked at the weather, tried to work out when that rain will arrive, and maybe try to carry those medium tyres to that rain shower. We'll just have to wait and see when the race does start. So Black Phoenix and Samster, the only two drivers out on circuit at the moment. 2 minutes left of the session. Glock is coming back out for another run. He's elected the soft tyres as well. Both the Red Bulls coming out, as is Vasta Racer. And it looks like both the Red Bulls have, in fact, gone on to the soft tyres. Just exchanging positions on pit lane exit there. So Louis and Lewis, the only drivers then that will be starting this race on the medium tyres. So we might have a little bit of a busy end to the qualifying session. Louis is in a bit of danger of not starting on the front row of the grid because it's nearly 6.5 tenths between himself and his new teammate, Vasta Racer. I mean, Louis had a few teammates this season in the McLaren team, and you can pretty much say that if McLaren do win the Constructors' Championship at the end of the season, then pretty much all of it has come down to Louis. But last week, Vasta Racer got himself a nice McLaren 1-2 with Louis, which is nice to see. And at the moment they're 1-2 in qualifying as well. So we'll have a look at Sam. Where is he in all of this? He's just starting his final lap. Black Phoenix is a few car lengths up the road. So with Black Phoenix and then Samster across the line. And then behind him Glock, Vasta Racer, Midnight and Blizzard. Oh, and Black Phoenix has put a wheel on the grass. He spun the car round coming through turn 7, the Dunlop curve. And the Racing Point driver has thrown away his final opportunity of a hot qualifying lap. And this session will end in P3 unless anyone else behind does improve as well. So Samster's managed to get past and he's pushing on. He's nearly 4 tenths up on this previous best, which will actually be enough to potentially get him on the front row of the grid as it stands at the moment. Glock coming through the final chicane. He's a few seconds away from starting his final lap. Midnight and Blizzard as well, just backing off a little bit to try and find themselves a little bit of track space between themselves. So Sam will be the first driver then across the line to complete the qualifying session, just negotiating around Spoon Curve at the moment, turn 13 and 14. And now again along the long drag up to 130R. We'll jump on board with the Renault driver. 23 people currently watching his stream. I think it's the most we've seen in the last few weeks, ironically, when we have the least amount of drivers. Maybe everyone is coming in just to see why we have 8 drivers and what kind of race they can put on. The qualifying session has been a bit of a slow start, but it might start kicking into life now with his final lap. Sam over to the right hand side, does improve his lap time, but it's not good enough to get on the front row of the grid. But I think even with 8 drivers here, Sam will be relatively happy with that P3. Black Phoenix, we know his session is over, just touring back to the pits. Vasta Racer up at the hairpin. Blizzard's lost it as well. Identical spot of where Black Phoenix spun the car about a minute ago, and Blizzard's done the exact same thing as well. So he will be starting at the back of the field. Midnight is halfway around sector 2. Vasta Racer is, I think, a few seconds up the road. Where's Glock in all of this? He's ahead of them. So Glock will be over the line first. Then it'll be Vasta Racer. Then it'll be Midnight. And then the session will end. So the Ferrari driver, 5th place at the moment, quite a bit off the pace, nearly 2 seconds away from Vasta Racer. I haven't had a look at the sector times, unfortunately. I've been switching between the drivers. Hopefully he can improve, get himself in the 27s as he comes through the final corner. We've got the McLaren just behind of Vasta Racer. Glock does come across the line. He does improve, but only by a couple of attempts. Vasta Racer does get inside the 126. It's a 26.922. Midnight came across the line. I didn't see the time, but he remains in P7. So there we go then. Won't take me long to get through the qualifying rundown. Vasta Racer and Louis first and second on the grid again for McLaren, like it was last week at Russia. But Louis is starting on those medium tyres. And it's Samster. I think he'll be relatively happy with P3, even with the 8 drivers here tonight. And Black Phoenix will be on row 2. Then it's Glock and Lewis also on the medium tyres on row 3. And then row 4, both the Red Bull drivers, both drivers not setting lap times. I think then, even though they're in the top 10, they should have a free choice of tyres. I'm going to take a very short break and I'll be back with you guys during the formation lap. So then, the 8 drivers now on the formation lap. 27 laps these guys have got to tackle this dominating and fierce Suzuka circuit. It's a real driver's circuit as well. Pretty much a lot of the drivers I know do enjoy this circuit. There's one or two that do struggle with it. It's very narrow in places. Overtaking can be a bit of a challenge. The hairpin that we just saw there at turn 10 is a good opportunity as well. Look for mistakes from drivers in both Spoon Curve and Degners as well. If you put a wheel on the outside, you might end up losing a little bit of control, but other than that, we've got 8 drivers here. Vastaracer and Louis 1 and 2 for McLaren. I will bring up the tyre graph just so we can see there. So yeah, Louis and Lewis we knew would be starting on the medium tyres, and Blizzard. So the Red Bulls have split strategies, if you like. Midnight starting on the softs, Blizzard going on to the mediums. And those of you that are unsure on the weather, you can see it's pretty overcast but dry at the moment, but I have been told by someone who came on the stream at the very beginning that we do have rain in the air. It's due to start at some point. The end of the race is going to be wet, but I did just get that little flashy, glitchy thing that we sometimes get when it does change weather. Usually you get little streaks that come off across the screen, and indeed, look at that. Look at that. As soon as the drivers come round then to take up their grid positions for the start of the race, the rain is already beginning to fall. So we have very early drama here, which is nice to see with only 8 drivers. So this is going to be interesting because the soft tyres, I think, will initially have good grip for the first lap or two. Then if the rain starts to get a little heavier, we'll see the medium drivers come into their own. So this is going to be interesting for the 8 drivers here tonight as I try to find a decent camera angle. Here we go. So then, 8 drivers on the grid. Are they going to give us the most entertaining race of the season? The 5 lights are on now, and the race at Suzuka is go. Good start by Vastaracer away from pole position, but Louis does have the inside line and immediately takes the lead. Look at Black Phoenix in the background as well. He wants to get racing into turn 1. The McLarens going side by side. They'll have to sort themselves out on the exit as well. It's 1-lane traffic through the S-curves. So Black Phoenix up into P3. Samster in 4th. Glock, Lewis and the 2 Red Bulls fighting quite heavily in the background as well as the rain continues to fall at the very start of this race. So Louis still leads. Vastaracer in 2nd. Black Phoenix 3rd. Sam in 4th, and it's Glock, Blizzard up into 6th, Lewis and Midnight down into 8th and last. But it's a good start by these 8 drivers. They've managed to keep it clean, and now it's going to be single file traffic for all of these guys going through now. But of course the rain has started to fall, so we'll have to wait and see to when the change, if and when it needs to be made. Louis leads, Vastaracer in 2nd, Black Phoenix 3rd, Sam in 4th. Still very nicely close together at the moment. We'll jump on board with Vastaracer. The rain is now not falling. I can't see rain bouncing off the halo or the car itself. So the rain started and has immediately stopped. So have we really got a weird weather pattern going on here at Suzuka? I have absolutely no idea. Call it how I see it. As we come down to 130R for the first of hopefully 27 attempts. Blizzard slowly making his way through the field in those medium tyres. He's managed to get around Glock going into 130R. That's an impressive move, even if I have missed it. But coming through to complete the first lap here, Louis leads, Vastaracer in 2nd. Black Phoenix is holding on quite nicely as well. Sam in 4th place as they come across the line. A little bit of spray being kicked up from these drivers, so maybe we have some real localised showers somewhere on the circuit. Blizzard then up into 5th on those medium tyres. And then it's Glock, Midnight and Lewis. Oh, and there's contact between the 2 of them, and I think that might just be a bit of desync going on between the 2 drivers, because they should not be bunny hopping on top of each other like that. It is, well, it's gone the 9 o'clock watershed, so maybe we can allow it on stream. But Louis then leads, Vastaracer sticking with him, as is Black Phoenix in 3rd as well. Sam's just slowly starting to drop off a little bit. He needs to stay within that 2nd by the end of the next lap if he wants any chance of staying with him with the DRS. Just one DRS zone here across the main straight. The detection point for it is just before the chicane. The activation point is just before the line as well. So just one real short run then with the DRS. And each drivers have to look for other options around the circuit to try some overtakes. As I mentioned before, the hairpin is a good opportunity. Rain falling again. So it started, it stopped, it started again. We'll jump on board with the racing point. You can see it now starting to splash and bounce off the halo and the cockpit as well. So these drivers would have started the race in the rain. They would have seen it stop, and now they're seeing it start again. So who knows how long this little rain shower is going to hang around for, and if we're going to need to make the change onto the intermediate tyres for these 8 drivers. But they're still circulating around relatively close together. As Vasta Racer just a couple of attempts away from his teammate Black Phoenix. Oh, very late on the brakes. Oh, nearly overshot the chicane completely, and it might give Sam a bit of an opportunity because he'll be a bit out of shape there coming out of the final chicane. Is the Racing Point driver moving over to the right hand side to try and break the toe, but Sam is aware of it, following him down. Blizzard is the same as well, gaining in that Red Bull. Oh, and what's happened there? Sam has braked so early going into turn 1, a good 200 yards before he really needs to let off the throttle, and poor old Blizzard has gone into the back of him and has heavily damaged that front wing. Look at that. He's going to be holding up his teammate, and Midnight manages to get round the outside, and now Glock and Lewis have got to try and get their way round. A damaged front wing around a circuit like Suzuka is going to really hurt you, really hurt you. And you can see that Blizzard is massively off the pace, just moving over to the right hand side. He should let Lewis through as well before the Degner curves, otherwise Lewis is going to cream into the back of that Red Bull as well and pick up more damage on his front wing. So Blizzard then, he'll be in the pits. He might carry on actually for the rain shower, and again Lewis giving him a bit of a love tap. Might have pushed Blizzard wide, and it has. So Lewis now does take that P7. So Blizzard might brave it out, even though he'll be woefully off the pace until we have to make the change onto the intermediate tyres, because this rain is starting to come down a little heavier now. The McLaren drivers of Louis and Vasta Racer still control the race at the front of the field, much like they did last week at Russia, where they pair of them absolutely dominated the event. 1-2 on the grid, 1-2 in the race, and Vasta Racer having a little look up the inside of 130R, but Louis cuts across his bow and says, "No sir, I will not give you the lead of this race at this early stage." But Black Phoenix then, a little bit of a mistake out of the final chicane in the previous lap, but he's correcting himself. And he's somewhat caught back up to the McLaren drivers. It's Sam now that's starting to struggle and fall back. And the DRS is still active because Midnight has it. Sam then onto the inside. Midnight ran the outside, which is, to be honest, the preferred line going into turn 1. And indeed completes the move around the outside going into turn 2. A little bit of a love tap there from the Renault driver. But no harm, no foul, no damage on that front wing. Glock still in 6th place, a couple of seconds behind, being hounded by the Taurus of Lewis. Blizzard has come in for a new front wing and made the change onto the intermediate tyres. So we'll have to look at the interval gap between Lewis and Blizzard to see if it was the right or wrong decision to go onto the intermediate tyres. He really had two choices, pit and go into the inters, or stay out and brave it out with that damaged front wing until it was time to change onto those green-walled tyres. But Louis still leads them. That's the racer, keeping an honest check on his teammate. DRS still active. Haven't seen a little pop-up yet telling me about it's being disabled. When we do, as everyone kind of knows, that's usually the time when the DRS is disabled. It's usually the time when the drivers need to go into the pits to go onto either the intermediate or the wet weather tyres. And Sam picks up a 3-second time penalty, exceeding track limits around Spoon Curve, I can assume. So Vasta Racer in P2, giving chase to his teammate. Black Phoenix doing likewise to the pair of them up front. And how's 130R looking? Well, it looked like Louis was a little bit out of shape, and it looked like Black Phoenix just ever so slightly had to lift off the throttle. So the track conditions, I think, are changing just a little bit. Blizzard, meanwhile, was 36 seconds behind Lewis. So we'll check on that in the next minute or so to see if that is increasing or decreasing. And we've got yellow flag in sector 3. What's happened back here? The leaders are exchanging positions, I know, but I think Lewis is being off the road. We'll come back to the leaders quickly then. Louis and Vasta Racer side by side coming into the S section. They've got to sort themselves out here sooner rather than later, because they'll be holding each other up going side by side and allowing the Racing Point of Black Phoenix to catch up. But yeah, Louis has managed to regain the lead after being attacked by his teammate, and I think Lewis has been off the circuit because he's dropped back from Glock. Blizzard, meanwhile, is losing time to Lewis. It's now up to nearly 39 seconds. Oh, and Lewis has lost it. Lewis has lost it coming through the S section into the wall as well. I don't know if that's a terminal DNF or not. He may very well just bin it and retire at this point. Nope, he's reset to the track, which is a bit naughty. So Lewis then has put a wheel on the grass, lost it in these changing conditions, and he's heavily damaged the front wing of that Torosso as well. So he'll be in the pits at the end of this lap, probably for a set of intermediate tyres as well. So a couple of early race casualties here then, but neither of them thankfully have thrown in the towel and continue to pound round, but off the pace and a long way away from these guys. Louis, Vasta Racer and Black Phoenix, and Midnight now has joined us. So we've got a nice little 4-car train, and I must say that Midnight and Black Phoenix look more comfortable in these conditions. Louis seems to be struggling somewhat, which is something I don't usually say about what he's going to be champion-elect. All he's got to do is finish, and this race will be his. In fact, I think even if he retired tonight, the championship will be his, because I can't see Blizzard winning this race and picking up the fastest lap at this stage. So Louis then still leading this race in the middle of a circuit over to the left hand side now. I still think these guys have DRS. I haven't seen the pop up yet saying it's been disabled unless I've missed it. But the top four are giving us a nice little race at the moment. Plenty of you guys watching, plenty of comments coming up as well. We'll try and read some back if I can at some point. But yes, apologies again for the low turnout. It's not One Hub's fault, so don't direct any blame to the league, the admins, the commentators, or even the drivers that have turned up tonight. It's a problem that we've been having this season, unfortunately. The last few races have seen poor turnouts. As Lewis retires from the race, I assume he's in the pits as he has retired, and Blizzard has cut the final chicane as well as he struggles round on those intermediate tyres. Was clearly not the right time to change onto him. He kind of had to, really. He pitted to fix his front wing. Lewis has done the same and retired in the pits, which is what we ask the drivers to do. So then we have lost our first driver as the spray slowly starts to get kicked up from the rear tyres and the rear wing of these cars at the front of the field. And Midnight then looking very racy in that Red Bull, now right up behind the Racing Point of Black Phoenix, but unless he's feeling big, bold and brave, he won't try anything into 130R. Be almost suicidal to go side by side through there in these tricky conditions, and indeed he does back off a little bit, loses a bit of momentum because of it, but he'll be able to recover and regroup going into the chicane. Black Phoenix goes in deep as well. That's going to give him an acute line on the exit, and he'll be slower because of it as well. Midnight pulls to be outside, but Black Phoenix will be able to get back ahead. DRS still enabled, so can Midnight swing out from underneath that red Racing Point's rear wing over to the left hand side, try it around the outside if he can, like he did to Samster a few laps ago. He has done that, given the Racing Point a bit of a squeeze. And Midnight then, ever impressive so far this season, and ever impressive in this race, starting from the back row of the grid if you like, now up into P3. Glock then into the pits, early change onto the intermediate tyres. Could be a master stroke, could be a silly move. We'll have to keep an eye on his lap times. Blizzard picks up a 3-second time penalty for exceeding track limits somewhere. We have yellow flags in sector 2. Someone lost it. I think it might have been Blizzard actually in Spoon Curve, because he is recovering to the track. So lap 7 of 27. Quite a lot's gone on actually. It's been quite an entertaining race so far. Thankful for the weather changes, to be honest. And it hasn't mean that the drivers have had to make a change onto the intermediate straight away. It's been quite a while. This rain is still persistent, but the drivers are still pounding around quite nicely on these dry tyres. A mix of obviously medium and soft tyres. A couple of drivers in the pits for intermediates, but we're still getting the DRS. We're still pushing round. I think Vasta Racer might be struggling a little bit. Oh, he's too busy maybe defending for Midnight behind, because he's been given the hurry up to his teammate all race, and now all of a sudden Midnight is the racy one. Look at this, up the inside going into 130R. Vasta Racer's definitely got to back out of that. And the Red Bull driver continues his charge towards the front of the field. His next target is Louis, the race leader. So Midnight really comfortable on this set. And I think we've got pit stops. We have Louis and Midnight coming into the pits, as is Black Phoenix, as is Samster as well. This will be the change onto the intermediate tyres. And Vasta Racer has carried on. Now, he could have pitted and joined up behind his teammate. He would have lost a lot of time, so I think Vasta Racer is going to brave one more lap on these soft tyres, which is obviously the time for these drivers to pit. They've been told by their engineer this is the best time to pit for those intermediate tyres. And Vasta Racer, then you can already see that the pace has dropped off significantly on these soft tyres. He's creeping and crawling round the first sector here. With this rain, it's now obviously coming down a little heavier. You can see there he's making corrections on the wheel. Now what's he going to be like into the Degners? He's really off the pace, really not hammering that brake pedal too much. Easy on the throttle, short shifting as well to kill the wheel spin. And Vasta Racer, I feel, is going to be dropping possibly behind Samster once he does pit. 18.9 seconds, 19 seconds now between Vasta Racer and Louis. So we'll have to see how this goes on. Louis picks up a 3-second time penalty for exceeding track limits around Degner. How's Midnight doing in this? He's fine. Black Phoenix as well. DRS has now been disabled, so it was the right time then for these drivers to pit. And Vasta Racer picks up a 3-second time penalty. He's ran wide at Spoon, so he's definitely in at the end of this lap. And he's now starting to lose time to his teammate and everyone behind. It was 19 seconds. It's now already down to 18. So this McLaren driver has to pit at the end of this lap very gingerly through 130R. You don't want an accident there because it will end your race. And now into the chicane. You can see just how slowly and how carefully he's had to do it. Apart from the 3-second penalty, he's kept it relatively clean. Don't crash, don't speed, brake, white line, down in the pits, intermediate tyres. Vasta Racer will probably be rejoining, I think possibly around Black Phoenix Samster, because there's a bit of a field spread now. Obviously some of these drivers may be being held up for a second or two in the pits. So where's Vasta Racing? He's already at the pit box, coming down the pit lane now. That's his teammate on the right-hand side. So Louis, I think, will definitely take the lead of this race. Where's Midnight in all of this? Will he get up into P2? He does. Black Phoenix, where is he? He's coming across the line now. There is Vasta Racer. So the damage is not as bad as I initially feared, but it's going to take about half a lap for those intermediate tyres on Vasta Racer's McLaren to really get up to speed and temperature. So this is the best opportunity, and possibly only real opportunity Black Phoenix has of getting onto the podium, of trying to get past Vasta Racer here. But around the S section, Dunlops and Degners, the only real opportunity he's got to make a move is into the hairpin. And already Vasta Racer starting to get back up to speed, starting to put a bit of daylight between the Racing Point and himself, and a bit of a sideways moment there coming into Dunlop. And that's allowed Samster an easy P4. So we saw that Black Phoenix was pretty competitive and pretty quick in the changeable conditions. Now on to the intermediates. Quite clearly he's struggling already. Blizzard is pretty much can kiss his championship, his slim championship hopes away. Another spin. He's almost a lap down at this point, I think. But I think he will still pound round. He may pull into the pits and retire at the end of this lap, I'm not too sure, but he's still going for it at least. And indeed he is coming into the pits now, so don't be surprised if we see Blizzard retire from this race, which we do ask the drivers to do. If he's going to carry on, then fair play to him for trying at least. But this race has pretty much gone away from him since the start. Didn't do well in qualifying, didn't set a lap time, and his race is going from bad to worse as it goes on. But lap 9 of 27. All the drivers now on the intermediate tyres. Oh, and Sam's out of the race. What's happened? Oh, he's lost it at the exit of 130R. And Glock had to take avoiding action there because he didn't know if the car had ghosted or not. And Sam, who qualified well, even with the 8 drivers, has lost it somehow, somewhere on the exit of 130R. Tried to correct the car. And as I said to Vasta Racer a couple of laps ago, you have an accident there, it's going to be a big one. And that's exactly what's happened. And poor old Sam becomes our second retirement. 6 drivers remain of the 8 that took the start. Lap 10 of 27. Louis with a 2-second lead over Midnight, and the second McLaren of Vasta Racer in P3. As it stands, Louis will be crowned Drivers' Champion at the end of this race. So the debris there from Sam's crashed Renault just off to the left hand side, but it's not on the track, won't hinder the driver's progress in any way, shape or form. Blizzard has now moved up into P6 as well, recently passing the retired Renault of Sam, who crashed a lap or two ago on the exit of 130R. Lap 11 of 27. These drivers may or may not need to pit again for the intermediate tyres. The rain may consistently get worse and may need a change onto the full wet weather tyres, the deep dark blue walled tyres. So I have to wait to see how that goes. We have to wait and see as well if these drivers need to pit again. There's 17 laps, including the one they're on now. So you're looking at around about 21 laps on a set of intermediate tyres around Suzuka. I think that might be a bit of a challenge for these drivers to do the rest of this race on a single set of intermediate tyres. But as it stands at the moment, Louis is back in control of the lead of this race. He was just about 2 seconds ahead of Midnight a lap ago. That's up to 3 seconds now. And Vasta Racer is now up to speed again. as he's slowly starting to creep and crawl his way back to that Red Bull car, who's on course really for another impressive podium. And I think he just put a wheel on the grass there, did Midnight, because he all of a sudden was going a little bit slowly. A little other car was slightly sideways as well, so might have overcorrected the car a little bit going along the long right-hander, if I don't have a seizure with my words. But he's managed to correct it, carry on. That being a wake-up call for both Midnight and Vastaracer. And you can see now the gap is underneath a second. So this is the only real battle, if you like, with the 6 drivers that we have on circuit. And Vastaracer will continue to claw and chip away at this little gap that Midnight has over him into the chicane for the 11th time. Good exit by Midnight. A little bit worse for Vastaracer. He has to get off the throttle just a little bit. And Louis then continues to pull away out front. Black Phoenix holding down P4, not as competitive in the wet as he was in the dry. And Glock, we've seen very little of the Ferrari driver. He's pretty much just chundering around all by himself, knowing that if he finishes the race he'll be picking up some good points. At least it'll be 10 points for the Ferrari driver, and I believe it might be his best finish of the season so far. He did join sort of halfway through. He hasn't been here since the start. So it might be a lonely race for Glock, certainly a very lonely race for Blizzard. He's a minute and a half behind Glock, and in fact he's very, very close to being lapped by Louis. So the guys in the championship in P1 and P2 having a very different races here. And as I said before, and I'll say again now, in theory Louis only needed a P9 tonight to win the title, no matter what Blizzard does tonight and in the final races of the season. But Louis knows that at this stage, and obviously even in qualifying of just the 8 drivers, all he knows he has to do is finish the race and he will be crowned the Prestige Tier Drivers Championship, and he'll get a nice little trophy mailed to him for his efforts as well. And thoroughly deserved to Louis. He has been an absolute standout performer this season. He really has dominated a string of race wins, podium every race as well. And I think no one can really begrudge Louis of winning the title. It's not the first time that I've commentated a league race watching Louis wrap up a title. I've known this guy for a few years now. A nice guy he is as well, thoroughly deserving of it. One of the quickest drivers I know out there who uses a pad. He's not in a wheel, doesn't use pedals. He uses the old trusty PS4 pad, and it's worked well for him in the past, and it's working well for him tonight as well, leading the way nearly 4 seconds ahead of Midnight, who has now managed to bridge a bit of a gap over Vastaracer. It's now back up to 1.7. So that little mistake that Midnight did a lap or two ago has now corrected itself, and he's slowly starting to pull away from that McLaren. Black Phoenix though is creeping in, so I assume that maybe Vastaracer has made a bit of a mistake somewhere, because Black Phoenix is now only 3 seconds away, and he was about 4 a lap or two ago. Just getting a little bit of his Tokyo drift on around Suzuka as he goes around the right-hander now, the long left as well, gingerly on the throttle. And it's the midway point of the season. I will mention it as well before the end of the race, but there is going to be an announcement by myself at the end of the stream, usually after the podium celebrations, and when I do my driver of the day nominations. Usually at that point I thank everyone, say goodnight and end the stream. Well, before that obviously, and after the driver of the day nominations, there is an announcement that I will be making. So if any of you want to hear it, you're more than welcome to hang around on the stream afterwards. I won't keep you waiting all night, and I'll just make a quick announcement, and then everyone will be able to get on with the rest of their evening. But as it stands, half race distance, 6 of the 8 drivers remain. Louis still leading the way. Vastaracer still chipping away. He's gaining, then losing, then gaining, then losing time. And he needs to find a bit of consistency here, because I think, you know, at this stage of the race, on these tyres, at this circuit, in these conditions, I think Vastaracer is the quicker of the two, and that's Vastaracer and Midnight I'm talking about here. But he gets close and then makes a mistake, and then he sees Midnight make a mistake and he gets close, and then the gap increases again. Very difficult, tricky conditions is to really be consistent and pick the same line, because you're constantly driving around trying to find the grip, what little grip there is around there. Trying to stay away from the curbs really as much as possible. You don't want to be riding them too hard, otherwise he'll end up being spat off into the wall, which is what happened to poor old Sam a few laps ago, which is why he's out of the race. So Vastaracer just needs to remain cool, calm and collected, and I'm sure he'll slowly start to creep back up to the rear wing of Midnight's Red Bull. But apart from that, unfortunately, it's difficult for me to really find stuff to talk about, because there's not a lot going on. I think What is it? Blizzard's being lapped now. Yeah, because ahead of Midnight there, you can see is the Red Bull. So I think Blizzard is just touring around at the moment, bringing the car home. He's now exactly, just a second ago, he was exactly 1 minute and 30 seconds away from Glock. So he's almost being lapped by the entire field at this point. As for Glock, he's still touring around, keeping himself to himself. But the gap between himself and Black Phoenix, it seems relatively consistent, around the 3.5 to 4.5 second margin. Same for Black Phoenix to Faster Racer. That's going up and down a few temps here and there, but no noticeable changes. So 5 drivers, they are within about 14-15 seconds of each other, but they're all pretty much evenly spread out. Even Faster Racer is a couple of seconds away from Midnight, who's gaining on his teammate little by little. And of course you can see there Blizzard's car has ghosted. He hasn't paused the game, he hasn't disconnected or anything like that. Of course once a car is lapped it becomes ghosted, so it can't interfere with any other drivers on laps ahead of him, which is a nice touch, to be honest. I think we've all experienced time in sprint lobbies when people crash out on lap 1 and then wait for the leaders to come around to take them out. So it doesn't happen in league racing, can't happen in league racing, because the car is automatically ghosted once you get lapped. So no funny business can take place. Not that I would expect Blizzard to do anything like that anyway, as Midnight just puts a wheel on the curb there a bit too much. Has to counter steer and correct the car. Still relatively smooth through the S section. He's found a few temps as well over Faster Racer. So this could very well be the order towards the end. There are a few penalties out there. I think Blizzard has a couple of 3-second penalties. Sam had a few, but it won't affect him. He's out of the race. I'm not too sure about anyone else. I think Louis possibly might have a 3-second time penalty. I might have missed it, but I did see his name pop up. It might have been for something else, but I'm pretty sure Louis has a 3-second time penalty. And in fact, something that I don't usually do, and I always say, people always say sometimes on stream and afterwards as well, why don't you check the race director to see who has what penalties? I don't like to do it because the action usually towards the end is quite fast and frenetic, and I like to call the action how I see it. I like the surprise of when drivers cross the line. Is he going to win the race on track? Does he keep it? Who gets a podium? Some people move up, some people move down, and it's a nice surprise. But as there's only 6 drivers going, I think what we'll do at this stage is pause the game, we'll have a look at the race director, and we'll have a look at the incident. So here we go then, exceeding track limits. Oh, 3 seconds for Lewis, doesn't matter, he's out of the race. 3 seconds for Blizzard. We've got another 3 for Sam, he's out of the race. 3 for Sam, doesn't matter. Blizzard, Sam. Louis, there we go, IRT Louis. He has a 3-second penalty. Same for his teammate, Faster Racer, and Black Phoenix as well. In Blizzard, another 10-second penalty. Oh my god, he's picking them up. So yes, so there we go. Black Phoenix, Faster Racer, and Louis, the guys running in 5th, 3rd and 1st, all have 3-second penalties. And as I pause the game, I missed a pit stop from Black Phoenix, coming in again for a set of intermediate tyres. So that might be a bit of a wake-up call to Faster Racer, seeing the guy a few seconds behind him making a pit stop onto a fresh set of intermediates. And if he pits, Midnight will do the same, and then Louis as well. So I did expect that these guys would not be able to get to the end on a set of intermediate tyres, and maybe then, as it is pretty much the half race distance on these intermediate tyres, or this part of the race, it's probably a good point for Black Phoenix to pit. It's exactly what he's done, so don't be surprised to see these guys pit as well in the next few laps. But Louis still leads, pulling away consistently over Midnight as well. And 2 seconds between Midnight and Faster Racer. That's pretty much being stable now for the last couple of laps. Glock got a few seconds back, obviously jumped up to 4th. Now Black Phoenix has made a pit stop. 17.3 behind Glock. We'll see what that gap is in a lap or two. But 16 of 27 laps almost completed here, getting into the final third of this race. I'll be expecting some of these guys in again for another set of intermediate tyres, just making sure they manage to get to the end with a decent amount of rubber left on, not pick up any harrowing punches or lose grip in some of these medium to high speed corners towards the end of the race. So halfway around lap 17 of 27, Glock has now taken this opportunity to make a pit stop as well, in a sort of rejoined, roughly the same distance behind Black Phoenix as he had before. So Black Phoenix certainly won't catch 26 seconds in the last 10 laps, unless something goes terribly wrong for our leading three, but they might try pit anyway. There might be someone, or maybe all three of them might decide to just go to the end anyway. We'll just have to call it how I see it. But Louis continues to extend the gap over Midnight, little by little, 10th by 10th, sector by sector. It's now over 6 seconds, and the McLaren driver is well on his way to being crowned the Prestige Tier Drivers' Champion for this season. So does he decide to pit at the end of this lap? No, he's going to carry on. He feels comfortable. Now we'll come back to Midnight and Vasta Racer. Do either of these decide to go into the pits? No, they don't. They may very well decide to carry on to the end of the race if they have good tyre life. But Black Phoenix and Glock, they've certainly been in for another set as well. Blizzard has been in for another set several laps ago, because he was the first one onto the intermediates, I think at the end of lap 2 or lap 3, very early it was. So we bring up then we'll have a look at the fastest lap, who currently holds that. It is Blizzard with a 32.109. The chances of that being beat, well, there's a possibility of it. I mean, Vasta Racer was just a couple of hundredths off as well, and Louis and Midnight just a couple of tenths away. So, I mean, if they pitted the top three for a fresh set of intermediate tyres, they very well may be able to get the fastest lap from Blizzard and claim an extra championship point. And again, apologies for the poor turnout, but in the last probably 4 or 5 weeks, or certainly the last 4 or 5 streams I've done for the Prestige Tier, we've probably had more comments and more viewers than in any other time. So obviously something like this sometimes does bring up a bit of drama. Everyone comes on stream just to check it out. Really? They are running with just 8 drivers in the top tier. They are indeed, and we're already down to 6. Lewis retired in the pits very early on after picking up significant front wing damage after losing a car in the S section, sector 1, and then literally just 1 lap into the intermediate tyres for Samster. He lost a car when running in, I think, 5th or 6th place on the exit of 130R, binned it into the wall, and his race unfortunately was over. Louis is coming into the pits then, so he's going to come on to a fresh set of intermediate tyres, I assume. What's Midnight doing? He's going to lead a lap. Same for Vasta Racer. So Louis is in then. He's going to relinquish the lead, drop down to P3, and he is going for a set of intermediate tyres. So I'll be expecting Louis to set a new fastest lap. And now will Midnight and Vasta Racer decide to pit? I reckon they will, to be honest with you, but one of them might be big, bold and brave and try to get to the end of the race, because Louis is going to be quite a few seconds behind, the best part of about 12 or 13 seconds I reckon, once he does finally get up to speed. 12.6, nearly 12.7 as it stands. Black Phoenix coming across the line, he will be several seconds behind, as you can see, down at 15 seconds. So Louis completely on his own. Same for Black Phoenix, Glocks and Blizzard. But it's Vasta Racer and Midnight then, with 9 laps to go, including the one they're currently touring. Now, do both of these drivers decide to pit? Does one of them decide to be brave and try to go to the end? It will be incredibly difficult to do nearly 20 laps on a set of intermediate tyres at any circuit, let alone one as tyre hungry as Suzuka. Certainly as well, the longer you go into this race in these intermediate tyres, you get the tyre fall off, the grip fall off, the tyre wear comes up as well, and in conditions like this you need all the grip you can to make sure that you stick those 4 wheels on the black top. Blizzard picks up another penalty. He must be close to 20 seconds at this point now. So Midnight then through 130R will come off board, see what the Red Bull driver is going to do. You'd enjoyed a lap in the lead at least, and of course that means that Blizzard's now unlapped himself. So does Midnight decide to pit? He doesn't, neither does Vasta Racer. So if these guys don't pit, I think at the end of the next lap, it's quite clear that they might be trying to go to the end. But Louis already taken nearly 2 seconds out of them on this lap alone. That is the difference between a fresh set of intermediate tyres and some that are already past their best. And so the charge is now on for our champion-elect to see if he can get back up onto the top step of the podium if Vasta Racer and Midnight decide to not pit. Behind Black Phoenix, 15 or so seconds behind Louis. He will be quite happy to just tour around and pick up some useful points with that P4. Same for Glock as well. Very quiet race. Apologies if he watches this back. Haven't seen a lot of you, my friend. There hasn't been a lot to talk about, unfortunately. You've been there and thereabouts all race, sort of hanging on, driving around. Boring Friday evening for yourself, and the same for Blizzard as well, who must be just waiting and praying for the checkered flag at this point. Nothing has gone right for the Red Bull driver tonight. Failed to set a time in qualifying. Started at the back, made some early progress, then picked up damage off the back of Sam's Renault, who braked very, very early for turn 1. Completely caught Blizzard out. He damaged his front wing. Had to pit early for a set of intermediate tyres when it really wasn't a time. He's had a couple of spins. He's been in again for intermediate tyres. He's got about 20 seconds worth of penalties. And Blizzard's just hoping and praying this race ends sooner rather than later. But hats off to him. He's carried on at least. A slim chance he has of keeping this championship fight alive is disappearing with every passing lap. Coming round then to complete lap 20 of 27. Midnight will carry on, and the same for Vasta Racer, getting a little wiggle on there, coming through the right kink past the pit lane line. And Louis again, another couple of seconds this lap. It was about a second and a half actually this time by, but with only just a few laps left to go, Louis has got to push. It's clear that these guys are going to try and nurse these tyres to the end. I'm talking about fastest lap. Well, it's not going to happen, is it? Because obviously that fastest lap would have been set once they were on the dry tyres at the beginning of the race. So Blizzard will keep that fastest lap. So the only way that Blizzard can now... let's have a look. Can he... Is it mathematically impossible? I think at this stage... have we completed 70% of the race yet? Let's have a look. Almost. I think at the end of this lap... we would have completed 70% of the race, which means that the drivers, if they retire, then will be classified. So I think pretty much as it stands, Blizzard can kiss any chance of keeping the championship alive goodbye. And even if Louis does finish third tonight, it doesn't matter where Louis finishes. He could even finish 6th. He could have even finished 8th if Sam and Lewis were still going. He would have been crowned champion. It was the slimmest of hopes for Blizzard to try and keep the championship fight alive, but it was always... sooner rather than later, Louis was going to wrap it up, and I think tonight we will be crowning him as a driver's champion. So Vasta Racer and Midnight still pounding round then. Lap 21 of 27. We're in the death throes of this race. Can both of these guys keep going to the end on these intermediate tyres, or will they need to make a pit stop? Louis is still bringing that gap down to 7 seconds. I think he'll be with these guys with a couple of laps to go. And we might have a last lap battle for the podium places. So Louis still giving chase, just under 6 seconds away from his teammate. Will Vasta Racer put up a bit of a fight? He's got nothing to lose. He's new to the Prestige tier. He's new to the McLaren team. It's only a second race. Louis will be very aware that Vasta Racer is a bit of a talent, because he pushed him hard for the race win in Russia. They exchanged positions quite a few times. They qualified on the front row of the grid, and then coming here tonight as well, they qualified together 1-2, and they've been dicing it out for the race lead as well. But since the rain fell, Vasta Racer has been slightly off the pace compared to Louis. And all of a sudden Vasta Racer and Midnight are slowly closing up on each other as well. As Blizzard has now allowed himself to be lapped again. So Midnight then, pushing hard. He wants his first race win for Red Bull. He wants to repay the faith that the Red Bull team have shown in him by plucking him from the midfield team of the Racing Point up to the top tiers with the likes of the Mercedes, Ferraris, McLarens and Red Bulls, and Midnight wants to turn around and say it was a good decision to take me on. There's added pressure, of course. These drivers, depending on what team they drive for, have targets to achieve. If they don't achieve them, they can be risked being dropped, and this will be a real feather in the cap for Midnight if he manages to hold on to not only these intermediate tyres but to the hard charging Louis behind as well. We'll win the title tonight pretty much no matter what happens now. You can see there it's under 4 seconds and there's 5 laps to go, 4.5 laps to go now really. Vesta Racer is less than a second away from Midnight. It's all getting very exciting. This has probably been one of the most entertaining streams, to be honest, in recent weeks, even with the poor turnout. We've had some good battles. These guys are very close. We had different tyre strategies at the start. We had changeable conditions. We've got the quickest guy having pitted again for the intermediate tyres, now hard charging back up to the front. The laps are running out for these guys. Midnight and Vesta Racer are pushing a very used set of intermediate tyres as far as possible, and look at this now. Midnight really starting to struggle, maybe starting to feel the pressure. You can see the lap time ticking down with each pass of the start finish line. And you've got to remain cool, calm and collected. Ignore that one McLaren behind him and then slowly ignore this one as well, because probably by the end of this lap Louis will be in range of putting the pressure on his teammate. And again, if Vesta Racer lets him go, I will be a little surprised, because Vesta Racer has got nothing to lose, and again a new driver into a new team. He has everything to prove. It's quite clear that Vesta Racer belongs in that McLaren team alongside Louis, because Louis gone for a few teammates this season, and Vesta Racer certainly has been the best one to help that McLaren team clinch the Constructors' Championship, which they are on course for doing, but won't do it tonight. As it stands, they'll be, I think, the best part of about 60 odd points ahead of Red Bull. So Blizzard then just being a bit of an annoyance to Vesta Racer at the moment. He has been lapped, of course, which is why his car's ghosted, so there'll be no contact between these two, but it'll be annoying for Vesta Racer to be looking behind him and see that Red Bull, and I think Blizzard is just lifting off the throttle here a little bit to allow Louis through. Indeed he does, and now Louis then less than a second away from his teammate. He's found 2 seconds in this lap alone, and we're only coming out of Spoon Curve. So we'll have 3 laps to go at the end of this lap. We'll quickly check back what's going on here as well, just to make sure that everyone is okay and still carrying on. They are. Black Phoenix is still trundling around in 4th, Glock in 5th as well. Blizzard, we know, has been lapped, but he is sort of in shot with these leaders, and look at that. Louis is now right up behind the rear wing of Vesta Racer, and I don't think there's going to be too much of a fight here. Indeed, Vesta Racer stays to the left hand side, Louis up the inside into turn 1, and if he can put a move on Midnight as easy as he's just done to his teammate, Louis will win this race. 3 laps to go, just a second and change separates Midnight and Louis. And I think now Louis has already caught and passed his teammate. He's got time to close up and pass, and I think unfortunately it was a good go by Midnight and Vesta Racer to try and secure P1 and P2, running these intermediate tyres to the end. But quite clearly Louis had the better strategy call. He could maybe have not pitted himself and still remained about 6 or 7 seconds in front, or maybe Louis was just bored and wanted to spice things up for himself a little bit by pitting, knowing that the other two wouldn't, going for a fresh set of intermediate tyres and then hard charging back to the race lead. But you can see now he's now within striking distance of that Red Bull, and if Midnight wants to win this race, he's got to make that car as wide as possible. Remember, Louis, Vesta Racer and Black Phoenix have 3 seconds worth of penalties, so Midnight can afford to give up the race lead, but the quicker that Louis gets past, then the better chance he has of securing the race win by finding that 3 seconds into 1:30. This is going to be brave. He's being forced off the circuit a little bit. Midnight is sticking that Red Bull in there. We'll jump back on board with Louis. If I can get the camera right, they're side by side. They're exchanging positions through the chicane, but Louis finally manages to take the lead of the race, and now Midnight has got to push like anything to stay within 3 seconds. He'll probably know that Louis has a 3-second time penalty, and Louis got 2 laps to find 3 seconds if he wants to take down the race win and sign off this championship, winning it here tonight with the race win. You'll be able to relax for the rest of the season as well. And with just 2 laps left to go, I did announce earlier on, halfway through the race, and I'll announce it again. Well, there is to be an announcement made by me at the end of the stream. Usually after the race is done, we do the podium celebrations, I go through the results, and then obviously I'll pick my 2 driver of the day nominations. After that's done, usually I then say goodbye, thank you very much for watching, and end the stream. But instead there will be a quick announcement for myself. If you do want to hear it, then do stick around to hear it, and I'll quickly fill you in on the announcement and then let you get on with the rest of your Friday evening. But halfway round lap 26 of 27, Louis has already on this lap found half the time he needs to secure the race win. Midnight, as it stands, will be in P2, Vastaracer P3, Black Phoenix, Glock. Black Phoenix and Glock might exchange positions. Glock has found a little bit of pace somewhere, and Black Phoenix has a 3-second time penalty. So Glock may very well snatch 4th place on the final lap here. Certainly whipping through the revs like that won't help his cause. But look at that, it's nearly under that 3-second margin that he needs to jump that P4. And Black Phoenix picks up another 3-second time penalty. That's 6 seconds now for the Racing Point driver. So as it stands, Glock will take that P4, which will be a nice little surprise. But into the final lap now then, Louis has a 2.3 second lead. He needs 3 seconds over Midnight to secure the race win. He knows that, Midnight knows that, I know that, you guys all know that now. So this race is not done yet. And what an entertaining race it's actually been with the low turnout. I've had some boring streams for other leagues at least, where there's been 20 drivers starting, and somehow tonight we've had 8, 6 still running, and it has probably been one of the most enjoyable ones I've done in recent weeks. But Louis then, he's almost in that 3-second window. He's agonisingly close. He's just got to keep it consistent and smooth. He knows he's quicker than Midnight. Fresher tyres. He's in the lead as well. Clear track in front of him. He's now over that 3-second window. And as long as he doesn't pick up another penalty or make a mistake somewhere, the McLaren driver will be picking up another race win. And with it, the Drivers' Championship as well. And at the beginning of the season, if you'd asked me who was one of the picks, I would say Louis would have been one of the favourites, but certainly not winning it in the dominant fashion that he has as well. Other drivers, Onyx hasn't been here for a few weeks. He looked racy early on as well, as did Paris, so unfortunately has left the league. He was fighting with Louis, but Louis has stuck around. He's been here every week. He's been on the podium for every race, and he's won a majority of those events as well. Into and out of the chicane for the final time. The McLaren driver wins the race, wins the championship. He is going to be one very happy boy. Midnight across the line, P2, another podium for this very impressive Red Bull driver. Vastaracer completes the podium as well. It's a 1-3 for McLaren, much needed points in the Constructors' Championship. Black Phoenix and out chicane, I think he's going to be losing this 4th place. He's got 6 seconds worth of penalties, which is going to be disappointing for the Racing Point driver. Glock across the line, and indeed he has been promoted to P4. Blizzard, our last classified runner in P6, 1 lap down. So congratulations to Louis. The race win, even with that 3-second penalty. Came back after pitting again for a set of intermediate tyres. And with it comes the Drivers' Championship as well. He's going to be a very happy young man, and will receive a nice little prize in the mail in the coming weeks. Congratulations to Midnight. A very strong drive in both the dry and the wet to pick up another podium for himself and Red Bull. And Vastaracer, his 2nd podium in as many weeks since joining the Prestige Tier. 3 very quick drivers, 3 very strong results. Just going through the rest of the field, as you can see here, both the McLarens had the 3 seconds worth of penalties. Glock then takes P4 by dint of Black Phoenix having 6 seconds worth of penalties. Plenty of seconds added onto Blizzard's time. 30 seconds it was indeed, close to probably being disqualified. A race to forget for Blizzard, but he knows now the championship is over and done with. Nothing else can be done. Samster lost it in the rain midway half through this race, losing the back end of the car through 130i, hitting the wall, and Lewis retired in the pits after just a few laps. That was it. 8 drivers turned up, 6 have finished. Disappointing turnout, but a very entertaining race. Big Chungus there, or Louis, has come on stream. Yay indeed. Congratulations to you for winning the Drivers' Championship. Now then, for my Driver of the Day nominations, well, it's... yeah, I mean, okay, right. Well, there's 6 drivers to pick from, let's be honest. So, okay, so I've got to find 2 nominations out of the 6 drivers. I think I'll make it nice and easy. We'll go for the guys that finished P1 and P2. Louis and Midnight. Midnight, I thought, drove a very, very strong race. I'm not surprised that Vasta Racer was up there. I was half expecting it, but I was a little surprised to see Midnight be so competitive, fighting the McLarens as well. So he, I think, thoroughly deserves one of the nominations. Louis, certainly, for winning the race, and the championship deserves the second. That'll all be released and announced on Twitter by the One Hub Racing Twitter page, as it will for all the other nominations for the other tiers as well in the next coming days. So do go on and vote for your driver of the day. Now, before I end the stream, I do have an announcement to make. Right, this is in no way because of what's happened tonight. This was a decision that was made a couple of days ago, and I was made aware of it yesterday to do this announcement if I want to. The announcement will also be put up onto the One Hub website, I believe, in about 5 or 10 minutes, 11 o'clock they said they will. Right, okay, in layman's terms, this is the last time you'll be hearing from me and the last time you'll be seeing the Prestige tier this season. Due to basically poor turnouts, a lot of inconsistencies as well for drivers. We've had some turning up, some leaving, some saying they're racing and they don't. We've had drivers not bother turning up for a matter of races and not let the league know, and all of that combined is basically it's been a bad, it's poor form and a bad show for what is essentially the the biggest tier in One Hub Racing. It's the Prestige tier for a reason. We choose the 20 best drivers for the top tier. We expect them to turn up, pretty much each and every week. We can expect a few missing here and there, but the turnout, especially tonight with 8 drivers, there was a very late decision to stream. There was a possibility of not even having a stream because everyone was quite disappointed with what was going on. This is a decision that was made a couple of days ago. It's not because of what's happened tonight, but when you look at what's happened tonight, you kind of have to turn around and say it's the right thing to do. Now, it's not the first time that I've commentated the top tier that's ended the tier early in the season because of a poor turnout. It's something I unfortunately am used to. From a personal point of view, I'm disappointed. It means that my time this season ends, but I do understand the frustration behind the league. And I can probably understand that there's a few people out there as well that probably think that, this is ridiculous. This isn't right. I know that the other tiers have had problems as well, but by and large, they had good races, good turnouts. They've had a few extra drivers. But when you look at the amount of different drivers that have been in the Prestige tier this season, the poor turnouts, the fact that people throw in the towel early on, the standard of driving as well hasn't exactly been top notch each and every week. All of that combined, that is the reason why the One Hub team have decided to end the season here and now. So unfortunately, earlier when I was saying there's a few races left and the Constructors' Championship isn't over and done with, kind of lying, because I had to save it for the announcement now. But obviously, because the season has ended now, therefore the championship is frozen. Louis has won the Drivers' Championship, which he was going to do anyway, and will receive his prize. And because of it, even though it wasn't mathematically possible before the end of the season, McLaren have now obviously been crowned as Constructors' Champions as well, and the trophies for that will go out as well, all the prizes. So nothing will be stopped, anything like that. We simply ceased the season 4 or 5 races early. The Prestige tier, of course, will return. There might be some changes behind the scenes as well. Obviously, maybe new rules and regulations and a new format and layout might come out as well. We'll have to wait and see. It's going to be a few months until the Prestige tier returns, because obviously the other 3 tiers are still carrying on until the end of the season. It's literally just the Prestige tier, unfortunately, due to multiple issues this season, that the team have decided to end it early, which is disappointing for me because I do enjoy doing this. Will I be back next season? The opportunity is there, the offer is there. I do want to stay on. I don't know what's going on in my personal life, so again, we'll just have to wait to see what happens once we do start a new season. It's a shame. I've enjoyed doing it this season. I've enjoyed the guys coming in each and every week, but unfortunately, due to the drivers more than anything else, the league have decided to end the prestige tier now, which is a shame, but I'm sure it will come back bigger and better next season. So thank you very much to each and every single driver that has raced this season. Thank you very much to each and every single one of you guys sitting at home or wherever you are for tuning in, dropping in your banterous comments and watching a stream and supporting the league. And thank you very much obviously to the league for giving me the chance and the opportunity to be a solo commentator for the prestige tier. I've thoroughly enjoyed myself, and I hope that it can continue. So for the final time this season, thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you all again very soon.